All right, disclaimer. I am not a professional. I am indeed a hobbyist who hasn't made a dollar of selling art, and I probably never will since I didn't get on the ground floor of social media and I don't have 4 years of experience. I'm perfectly in the middle, so that's what you're gonna get. Everything I say in this video is my personal opinion based on what I've learned from drawing consistently for about 4 years now, for a total of about 7 years. So if it doesn't click for you, that's perfectly okay. It's not that deep. Now I'm gonna say this now. I'm 28. I started when I was 22, and I feel as though I've grown fairly quickly with how much effort I put into it. So I don't think you're ever too old, and I think starting as young as possible is also fine too. I don't think there's an age on when you should or can learn art. So I don't need to talk about that. Okay, but yes, I'm not a child, so if you're talking about Roblox, I don't know what you're talking about, but just hang with me. Um, all right. So before we even begin, like actually drawing anything, I want to kind of talk about like a more mental aspect to it. Um, I want you to understand that like it's okay not to be the best at everything. And you're not gonna nail it on the first try, especially anatomy. Um, Drawing is more of like a self journey. It's more of like a discipline, as opposed to like a refinable skill. The more you understand yourself and the more you understand what you tend to do as you draw, that's when your skill starts developing. So if you're looking to like get like one tutorial that ends all tutorials, or you're trying to like you're trying to get a bunch of money or trying to get a bunch of like social media clout, it's like that's not the kind of art that I want to see more produced, because there's tons of that already. Okay? Like if you're trying to look for a fast money or you're trying to look for like cheap tricks, just mass produce AI art or start like reposting art you see on Pinterest and hope you don't get caught. It's gonna be faster that way. And then just delete your account when you scam everybody and like you're done. I'm not here to teach you that kind of art. I want to share my knowledge of what it means to really go through that journey, and it's really hard, and that's okay. Like the fact that it's hard means it's worth it. Because like in my opinion, if you're not willing to suck at something, then like you don't really deserve to be great at something. I mean, like you have to be okay with doing that specific thing even when you're not good at it, because that's how you build a skill. If you have to be good at it to do something, then like I don't know, that's like a loser mentality to me. Like embrace the suck, it's okay. Um anyway, okay. So I'm not sure if you've seen my art before. I'm reminding myself to post art here so you can see it or not. I don't know. You're on my channel. You can find it. Um, uh, I like to do semi-realism. Um, I don't really have much of a background in art. I'm more of like a logical artist. Like I do things. I fail confidently. Then once I fail something, I kind of just work on like what didn't work and I try to modify it there. So it's kind of a free-flowing process for me. So if you're looking for like a Loomis method type thing, this might not be exactly what I can give you, but I can give you some like really base foundations, and I can kind of slowly build you up to how I perceive art and how I can draw in the way. Um, so the first thing I want to like, if when we're talking about anatomy, the first thing you want to do is like understand like what is the humanoid form, right? So the joke is like, oh, I can't draw. I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm like, okay, like you can draw a stick figure, even if it's like gross. But if you can draw this, you can draw anatomy. Okay, like that's it. Okay, just believe yourself. So now, if you can draw this, which I really hope you can, and if you can't, practice drawing this, then we're gonna actually upgrade this stickman form from this level 1 form to like level 2, right? And the level 2 form of this is drawing flat planes, or I guess like drawing like the basic shapes of like a humanoid. And that can go for man and females, because humans, no matter the gender, have the same feature. Well, you know what I mean, besides like a couple physiology. They have the same like. So what I want you to do is the head is obviously gonna be on top of the neck. Now, sorry, Joe. The torso, all we're gonna do is draw a line, a big one that's about half the size, or a third, depending on how you perceive that. And we're just gonna connect it. This is more masculine because it's more Dorito, but like we're going to go from torso to waist, and then now this depends on the gender, but let's just say we're drawing a very basic whatever. We're gonna match the width of the torso, or go a little higher. And then if you look at the shoulders here, you don't want to go wider than the shoulders too much in general. So we're just gonna take the shoulders down, right? And then just to make it even, we're gonna extend the waist here, and then we're gonna draw the crotch line, which is gonna be the middle of the body. And I'm not a teacher, so like, just bear with me. So there's gonna be a center line on the body, obviously, right? The human form is very balanced, so what is on one side will usually match weight on the other side, unless they're actively doing something. So if we were to take the center line down to here, now we know where the crotch will be, so you're just gonna lower the waist, let's just say like 2, 3. I don't know what unit of measurement this is, but just bear with me. And we're gonna draw the crotch at 3. And then we're going to connect the waist. And then we're just going to kind of, again, the legs really start at the hips. So whether you draw it here, it doesn't really matter, but like, it's not going to be here really. So let's just say like here. It's just the side of the we're just going to connect that down. And this is essentially the leg, but like, if you want to be funny, you're going to, so the legs are basically the width of like the human body, like the torso to like the waist anyway. So this is like the leg. So if I were to literally take this line, that is the leg. I'm actually going to put this here. You know, draw the other leg. And then the knees, we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to draw a circle for a knee. And then we're going to basically do the same length of leg again. And you don't need to measure anything out too much, but just try to match kind of like the width or the length of this leg, or the legs anyway. We're just going to draw it down. And now, this isn't really technical, but now instead of drawing like a circle here, which you can, but if you just pinch the leg and just draw like a loop and then connect the loop to the ankle, I guess, this will be more, it'll give you more of a plane to imagine like, and then the shoulders are exactly what you are. So we're gonna, the arms are gonna kind of start technically more like right here, but for the sake of like demonstration, like if I'm just gonna put like the arm here. It's just gonna go to like the length of the. Let me just double check myself. It's so the hand is gonna end at the halfway, depending on the character, obviously. In most cases, the hand is gonna end like here, like halfway at the leg area. So when you draw the arms, you can just draw a line straight down and then draw like the hand, which. And then you can, at the midway point, you can draw like the elbow. The head is comically small. The head, so the head's never really gonna go past like the halfway point. The head's never really gonna go on past like the halfway point on the body. Or not the halfway, but like, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to like the shoulder, the midpoint, the center point, it's going to be between the shoulder and the center point. So it's not really going to extend past. It's not really going to ever extend like past here. So the head is just going to be, in this case, just going to be like a right. And of course you can kind of always change the head based on like what's better for you. But essentially like this like box dude is the ideal proportions of most humans. And then you can just change different elements depending on what you're trying to draw. So this is like level 2. So just understanding like there's proportions at play. And then level 3 is a lot of times when you're beginning to draw or you've been drawing for a little bit but you feel like your work is kind of flat sometimes. It's because sometimes it's hard to imagine a 3D space, right? If you're drawing 2D art on a 2D plane, it's going to look really flat because it literally is flat. There's no like bending of reality happening, you know? So the idea is you can't, if you're drawing something front facing or you draw a lot of your characters front facing, you're going to have a hard time doing this. So you're going to have to branch out a little bit. And if you can idealize what a cube looks like, right? So, I'd imagine like what a cube is at this point, especially if you've been drawing for like at least about a year or even a couple weeks. So, now we're talking about 3D spaces, right? Because now you can imagine like, okay, well, like I can't prove it, I can't see it, but I know that behind this cube, there's another vanishing point that exists. And this is the hard part of like, this is when people start really elevating their drawing or like the capabilities that they can do, is when you can imagine what's behind things you can't see, because you're not going to see it, right? And when you start, I won't say mastering, but really getting proficient at like these perspectives, whether it be, looking, let's say this makes it easy. This is the plane of a cube. Draw it kind of like pointed towards me kind of thing. Way even kind of up to, just always trying to keep in mind like this cube is always, or like the back of this cube exists, like it doesn't just go. Those are kind of weird cubes, but you get the point. So the level 3 version of, so again, if you can draw this, you can draw this like a very, very basic box person. So now if we're just going to take every single part of this body and make it 3D. We're just going to choose a random perspective just to make it easy. So let's do like a bit of a top down, right? So we're going to first draw the head. Right? The head is just a square, or in this case, a cube. So okay, now we've drawn the head. We're not doing any facial structure. We're not doing anything like that. We're just keeping in mind what it means to draw in 3 dimensions on a 2D space, which is very tricky to do when you start practicing. But this is what takes your art from, like, again, like the level 2 aspect where it's like it's just a pretty image that's like on a piece of paper. So like, okay, like now there's like some perspective at play that like, we're not really talking about foreshortening too much right now, but like obviously if you're looking up to down or whatever, it's going to change a little bit. But that's the next level to all this. And like these are the stepping stones that you need to consider before I even teach you like any type of anatomy that I've learned. Anatomy is just a whole different, anatomy is more of just dressing it up, but the core foundation needs to be there. So anyway, so you have the head, and then below the head is the neck. So we're going to draw, no, you don't have to do it like this, but just for the sake of demonstration, the neck is going to be obviously the head. So, and you can't see it, but the neck is here. We're just going to draw a straight line down. Now we're going to draw the torso. So the neck to torso is going to be, now when you draw in this case, this perspective, right? So part of the torso is going to go behind his head. You're not going to see it. So I'm not going to close the line, right? So I'm going to start from the side of his head and go out. And then I'm just going to go in a straight line because we're just facing down, right? So it's going to go straight out. And then I'm going to connect the shoulder. And then again, you're not really going to see, like you might see a little bit of the neck here, but we're not going to do that for now. We're just going to complete the rectangle. So now if I were to use the red again, we don't see this, but it still exists. Like the other side of the torso. Now, here's a personal tip when it comes to drawing anatomy for me, or at least bodies, and keeping it making sense. Sometimes we disjoint certain parts of the body because it's like weird. In my opinion, a helpful trick is to know like kind of where you want to end it. So I kind of want to end here, right? We'll do some blue. So I kind of want to end like here, and I'm just kind of guessing, right? I just know that it's gonna be below. It's not gonna be out here, obviously. That's just crazy. So if you kind of imagine like okay, like here, 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 like it's gonna connect somewhere here. Like, it's not gonna be way out here. That's unless the person's like, well, even if they're laying down, I guess I could kind of go this way, right? But we're not gonna do all that right now. So just kind of pick a point, kind of below the head, kind of below the torso, like let's say like right here, and then we're gonna do it again. We're just gonna go here. So what I do that helps me a lot to keep things connected is to literally just connect them. So I'm imagining a point here and a point here that I'm going to connect. I'm literally just going to connect here. I'm going to connect here. I'm going to connect here. And then to complete the torso in a 3D space, I'm going to connect here. And I know that if I were to continue to have the 3D form, that this is going to go out and this is going to go down, right? So I can play around with it a little bit. So I'm just going to put it about right here. Now I'm just going to connect this. I'm going to connect this. There we go. And now we have the first plane, or well, I guess the first two planes on the body, right? That's like the top of the head. And these, like, it sounds very simple, and I hope that I'm not going too fast, but these are the things that are happening behind the scenes that like you need to keep in mind to make sure your art makes sense, right? And again, this is still a 3D space. So behind this torso, there's still a vanishing point here that we aren't seeing, but it's still there. So anyway, and then what's below the torso? It's the waist that I covered with green for some reason. So we're gonna draw, well, keep it here. So the waist is gonna start here, and no matter how you look at it, it's gonna be a straight line down. So I'm just gonna draw a straight line down. And then I'm going to, again, I'm gonna imagine, well, I guess what you can do, just to make it easy, you can just draw a straight line. Like, you know there's gonna be a straight line somewhere, so just draw it. So you don't, it's not gonna make sense to go this way. Like, because, well, I take that back. I guess it would, because you can still connect it and kind of make it make sense, but now the person's like jutting their waist forward, which you can kind of do something like this if they're like JoJo posing or something. But to make it a little more simple, we're just going to keep it going backwards under the torso. So it's more of like a normal standing pose. So, okay, so now we're just going to imagine the vanishing points again, right? So if the waist ends here, and I know the waist is going to go backwards, I'm just going to put it here. I know it's not going to be way out here because like it has to connect to the body, and if the body connected or the torso connected like out here, it would look kind of odd. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to imagine like if I extended it like just in a 3D space, I'm just going to put it here. And then you're not going to see this one because obviously it's behind the torso. So we're not going to draw that vanishing point or that connection point, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to go back into the torso. I'm going to go back into this point. And I'm just going to, you can't see it, but I'm going to connect here, which is under the torso. And again, if you were to imagine what it's looking like behind it, it's 1, 2. There is a vanishing point here. It didn't go anywhere. And then you're going to just imagine that under the torso, the waist is still here. It didn't go anywhere. And again, keeping all these things in mind is what makes your art look really impactful and like it's living. It's like, it's literally in a 3D space, you know? Okay. Now, the waist, again, it depends on the character, but as opposed to this image, I'm actually going to make it more just like a straight up box, as opposed to like a trapezoid, just to make it a little bit easy. So again, I'm going to use this already established vanishing point. I'm just going to go, now, it's fine. I'm just going to go down. So I'm going to imagine again what it's going to be below, like it's going to be below this line, obviously, right? So I'm just going to guess. I'm just going to put it right here. And then I know that if we're kind of going, well, whatever. I'm putting another point here. And then, because like if you imagine all this is going vertically down, like that's how you can kind of imagine like it's just going down. I'm not doing anything crazy. And then again, like even here, obviously it's a bit behind this one, so it's gonna go up a little bit. I'm gonna put it like right here. And we're just gonna connect the dots again. 1, 2, 3. connect this one. And again, the body is still, or the waist is still behind the body. You can still see the top of the waist. It didn't go anywhere. We're drawing in 3 dimensions now. So keep that in mind. And again, so the length of the torso and the waist is about the length of the legs, like the different halves of the legs anyway, like the upper and lower, like below the the knee. So if I imagine like just really quickly, like okay, well it's gonna be about this long in general. And I'm just going to, again, just for visual practice, there is a behind the waist. It does exist. It didn't go anywhere. So I'm going to create another like connection point. And again, I'm completely guessing, but I do know that the legs are going to be under the waist. So I'm not going to put the legs out here. Unless the person's sitting, I guess. But again, we're not doing that. We're going to put it just here, and we're going to put the other one just here. So all I'm going to do is line and draw a line. And of course, you can put the legs back or more further back, like depending on like what you're drawing. But like essentially, just know that the legs are behind. But if you were to put like the legs like here, like that's also fine. You can kind of play around with it. I guess if I was being a little bit more accurate, I'd maybe put the leg, because I guess they're like under it. So I guess I'd imagine like, well, yeah, let me do this. Let me try this. Like if you imagine like the leg. So like the legs starting under the waist here. Now I can draw really the same vanishing, and then I'm gonna connect. You can't see the top part of this because it's behind the waist. Below it, kind of like this, and then again you wouldn't see this part. Kind of like, and then the knee. We're just gonna draw a little circle for the knee, just to make it easy. And then now. I know it's like, oh my god, foreshortening. It's like, just draw the thing a little bit shorter than whatever. So it's gonna be a little bit shorter than the leg. So all I'm gonna do is extend it a little further down. And then I'm just going to make, instead of doing like a circle, because in my opinion, you can do a bit more. For anatomical reasons, it's a bit easier if you just draw a little triangle and just connect the leg. Just draw a little. And then same thing. Down. Now, to be fair, the knee is kind of funny. So since we're facing like this way, you can kind of draw the knee a little off the leg because the knee is kind of like facing that way. And then again, you can kind of, since this leg is facing the like us more, you can draw it a little bit longer, and you can kind of just draw like the feet facing like. And then again, the arms, like we're not going to think too hard about it. It's on the side of the body, so we're just going to extend it to the waist. There's 2 halves to it. So we're going to send it to the waist. Actually, point here. And then it's going to go to like basically the first half of like the first part of the upper leg. So like right here. So we're just going to extend it down here. Draw like a little circle, whatever. And then again, now this is where it gets kind of funny, right? Because sometimes people be forcing limbs that you can't really see. So really all we're going to see from this arm is like, and I guess below the waist to the halfway point again, it's gonna be the arm. And now we have, so this is like level 3, right? So when it comes to anatomy, like if you are having a hard time understanding like what, and of course like visual review, you can draw kind of like the perspective is here. So now we can imagine this person is standing, and you know, for perspective reasons, like the further away something is, the smaller it's going to be, the bigger something is. So if we're looking down with this box person, we can imagine that this box will be bigger than the smaller box. And then even just like the blue connecting dots, we can just connect. And now we have a 3D figure in a 3D space. And that's it. So this is like, when I'm drawing things, like I'm imagining things from this perspective, or not this specific perspective, like, but this is like how I internalize 3D objects. Which if you're drawing anatomy, and especially if you're going to draw it like off the cuff and like not with too much like 3D models or whatever, like you just need to understand, like you need to be able to kind of conceptualize this body You don't need to do it perfectly, but just have an idea, right? So now, if I were to, so let me say it like this: I probably spent the first 2 years trying to get to this point. Not that it will take you that long, but like I didn't understand how to understand what I didn't know. So when I started becoming much more quick at drawing like box people, like from like any type of perspective, of course like the more challenging, it getting really challenging very quickly, you know. But like being able to draw these things very quickly, or at least like with a certain degree of confidence, it really helps your understanding of what you're trying to do. And also like you can create almost any pose you want because you're so practiced at doing it. You know what I mean? So this is like the foundation of like drawing cool figures, right? And then of course like as time goes on, you'll just get better at it because like you are amazing in practice. No matter what character you're trying to draw, you can always draw the box version. It can always help guide you to kind of like the full vision without having to have like a million references all the time. And of course, if you're drawing like hands, stuff like that, it might get a little tricky, and like that's definitely a good use case for references. But like for just general conceptualization, like you don't really need to have a whole book of like very hyper specific references to like draw stuff. You know what I mean? So so I would say before you get too deep into like understanding every anatomical muscle or whatever, like definitely try to understand the concept of drawing these box people, or at least some type of doing it. Now I've seen people. I used to go before I got to like the box person. I used to do like cylinders, you know. So I used to like kind of do something like this for like the head. But I still try to keep some kind of like 3D aspect to it. Um, and I think it's definitely okay not to just draw box people. You can draw like any type of like figure, I guess, in that way. But it's definitely important to have some type of free flowing process so you can draw these type of things. But it doesn't have to be, as long as you have the idea, you're fine. Um. So anyway, so that's level 1 through 3 that, like, in my opinion, should be you should be comfortable with first before really going hard into anatomy. Um. So that's. So I'm just gonna keep this here. That's the basics. Now, when it comes to anatomy, now I specialize. I prefer my favorite type of anatomy is drawing hot anime moms. So I'm sure if you know, you know. So if I be drawing something kind of sus, it's how I draw. It's like my favorite subject matter. Like that's kind of what you're gonna get from my channel anyway. So if you're looking for a very masculine looking art form, not that I can't draw males, this might not be the channel for you. But if you have some weird interests, then I might be the person you're looking for. Or at least we can grow together in that way. So first I want to talk about heads, because obviously I think that for most art styles, the head, the eyes, the mouth, like the way you draw the face is very indicative of like your art style. The body can look very mid, but like the head is like, if it's like hyper detailed, people are like, oh, that's your art style, like whatever. So I'm gonna teach you some basic stuff about the head, right? So okay. So here's some like before I'm not gonna draw hyperrealism heads. I'm gonna draw a semi-realism, as I mostly do. Because the realism is like it's a very, you know, it's a different kind of study. So I'm gonna teach you. So I'm gonna teach you the eyes first. Actually, I'm gonna teach you the head shape first. So you, so I know what I used to do too. I used to, you know, draw a circle, not good enough. Draw a circle, not good enough. Draw a circle, not good enough. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It doesn't matter. Just draw some type of shape. It doesn't matter. And then what you can do is we're gonna break down certain parts of the head that, and we're gonna draw a front facing one, and then a turned one, and then maybe like a side view, like a 3/4 anyway. So when you think of a head, right, you make a circle. I've seen the Loomis method. You know, I get the, you know, I don't like the Loomis method personally too much, but it is a good, like, very, very, very basic form. Okay, this is like the head, you know. Like, okay, cool. We're not doing that right now. But if, yeah. So on a front facing view, I'm gonna turn this. And again, we're still drawing 3D objects, even if we're doing a front facing view. Just gotta keep them. So everyone kind of draws this line very differently. in like in the direction in like the size that you put it. So you have to kind of come up with this for yourself of like where you put the eye line or whatever you want to call it. But wherever if you draw a circle, you draw a cross on it, and then you extend this down. This is kind of all you need to do to have like a head, no matter what. And you can almost make the head any shape. And you can kind of always have the same guidelines. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of extend it a little bit and like you're kind of on a good page. And then, so in my opinion, the ears will always, for me, if you draw like a center like this, the ears are going to come off like this. And you can draw any type of ear you want. I will usually draw elf ears just because I think they're really cute, but there's no actual reason why. Or whatever. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. And again, I'm more of a sketch artist anyway, so like I'm very unserious about like, it's, you know. But again, like because I'm unserious about the lines, I can tell you the idea of what you're going for, no matter what style you're trying to do. Because unless you're trying not to draw humanoid heads. Anyway, so sometimes I think people get a little confused on the head shape a little bit, or like what goes where. So just make it simple, right? So every character, any attractive character has a chin, in general. Like there's always at some point the head is going to kind of hit this chin point. What you can do is draw the chin. I'll do it on all three heads, so we can get all different perspectives. So it's gonna be below here somewhere, and we're not looking for exact like this is where the chin goes, but we're looking for like the chin is gonna be below like the center point of the head somewhere somehow. It doesn't matter the shape, doesn't matter like doesn't matter. So we're gonna so the ears, so the side of the head is flat. So sometimes I think that we think the head is like a sphere. It's kind of not. It's more of like a rectangle, actually, surprisingly, with like a cranium on it. So if we're imagining that the side of the head, so if you're imagining the side of the head is here, it actually is kind of flat. This that you need to keep in mind. So we're not gonna just draw a big old circle. So keeping in mind that it's kind of flat, we're just gonna extend basically where the ear is down. Just a little bit. And these are just guidelines, right? So we're not fully committing. But we're just gonna extend it down. The square one's kind of, you get the idea. And then we're just going to connect. Now you can draw it here, you can draw it here, you can draw it here. It doesn't matter. Don't get too caught up in it. Just connects the side of the head to the chin. This and like this. Yeah. All good. Doesn't need to be exact. You don't need to measure it too much. Don't think too hard about it. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. Just hang in there. Now, when you go to the ear, so now we gotta think about the cranium. Right? Like the head isn't just like it. It's like a very flat-footed like whatever. But like the head does extend from like the back, right? So we need to keep that in mind to make it like look 3D looking. So we're just gonna go from like the center line of the ear, and we're just gonna extend it to like basically like here. Right? So we're just gonna extend. And now it's becoming a bit more three-dimensional, a bit more interesting, a bit more okay, like I can kind of see the side of the head, like behind the head. Right? And now we can kind of erase, this is more of like the hairline at this point. So we can kind of erase a little bit just so we don't too much click going on right now. So now we kind of have like, okay, now we got like a little head. I'm just gonna erase it. And again, you always gotta trust the process. It's very easy to get lost in the sauce. So usually on the head, then depending on the character, right? If it's like a machismo whatever dude, like the neck is gonna basically be like the side of the like the side of the head is gonna be where the neck starts, kind of like guy's like a really masculine dude. And if it's a female, typically you won't really go past like the halfway point, like where the eyes go. So it's gonna look more like this, or I guess like So we'll draw kind of like a female sized neck. So again, you don't want to go past like the halfway point too much, depending on the character. We'll do like more like, machismo, kind of guy. And again, it's just gonna be a rectangle, nothing crazy. And then we'll just kind of do something. So from here, now if we're imagining that this is a 3D space, your chin protrudes from your neck. Like it doesn't go to your neck straight to your chin. So just since your chin is extending, there's going to be a shadow under your chin, right? And that's going to make it look 3D because that's a three-dimensional concept. So no matter what you're drawing, unless it's like even if there's like some serious lighting or whatever, you're basically always going to draw a shadow under the chin. And it doesn't have to be like super serious or anything like that. Just you're always gonna like draw some type of shadow under the chin. It doesn't have to be specific, but you just need to understand like that's in some way that's usually gonna be the case. Right? And when you're doing line art like the way I do it, typically if you just draw a really thick line, kind of like a shadow, but just to make it more obvious, that's kind of like it is or whatever. It's just like some anatomical knowledge, but there's gonna be like two like tendons coming from your neck that like kind of go into your clavicle. So the clavicle is going to be at the bottom of the neck, obviously. So we're just going to draw, and this is going to be like a hump. That's kind of like where the two bones connect. And then the two tendons on your neck are kind of going to go to like the edge of the clavicle. I can't already do it here, but to make it more. So you can kind of just go ahead and connect that to like. It's just a concept you need to, whatever. Now, from the clavicle, it's not just like a straight line to like the shoulder. It does go like up and then down. So what you can do, if you start with the clavicle, it'll be a little tricky. So if you just take the neck and just extend it forward, typically the character is like in a neutral position of the kind of lean downwards. So we're just going to have it. And same, it doesn't really matter for what the character is, but you can know. But it's always not like if they're standing neutrally anyway. They're not raising their arm or whatever. They're just going to lean down, and that's it. And then the clavicle needs to make sure, like you need to make sure the clavicle is true to this line. So essentially, you can kind of just draw a straight line here. Don't fully connect it, obviously, but draw a straight line, all the figures. And then, like I was saying before, it's kind of like a check mark thing going on. So you make it really exaggerated, like you're just trying to get the shape in there. You're gonna go up, down, and like just make an exaggerated like up and down, like a. And then, just I guess if you want to keep in mind of like the shoulder. So the shoulder actually used to give me a while. Don't be too like specific. Like just make sure the lines are there, and you'll be surprised how fast an image starts coming together. So something to keep in mind is like the shoulder gets a lot of people. It got me for a long time because sometimes I used to think that like the shoulder like starts here and ends like here, but what you can do is like there's actually a shadow here because it's kind of hard to say. I'll say like from like the halfway point. Now we're getting to like a little specific, so it might start getting a little complicated, but just bear with me. These are all things you gotta keep in mind. So at like the halfway point of like the clavicle and like the shoulder, I guess, there's gonna be like the back of the shoulder muscle. I can't remember what the actual muscle is called, but it's like on your. And depending on the muscle of the character, you're always gonna see a bit of a difference in like you're gonna kind of see it from behind the character. So you have the neck. It's just gonna kind of like curve into the neck. And for characters who are like either adolescent or like are just not that very muscly, it's not gonna be too much of a difference. Even this is kind of a lot, but it's gonna be a little bit of like thing happening here, which is important because it's kind of like a circle almost. There's gonna be like a little bit of a shadow like here, from here. And like down here, there's like a little shadow going. And also like if you imagine like the neck is under the head, It's actually kind of also in shadows. So it doesn't have to be like that shadowy. This is kind of exaggerated, but there is a line here, and that's important because the muscle kind of ends here, and then when it comes to like the shoulder, it actually kind of goes into your clavicle, and it's kind of like flat into your clavicle. It looks crazy, so I'm trying to explain it. But it's important. It's like a thing that exists. Just like keep in mind. And then the shoulder actually goes like over the clavicle a little bit, like at least in the way that I draw it, anyway. So and then now you kind of have like this like kind of like this shape. Sorry, it's gonna look a little scuffed right now. This is kind of back. It's hard talking this way. Um, but yeah, so basically like from the time like the muscle, the shoulder, whatever, it's kind of like this like dip before you get to like the shoulder. I guess I can explain it better later, but it's a thing. Uh, yeah. So I'm gonna try to do that again where it's not super scuffed. So this is a more brolic character. Yeah, we're just gonna ignore it. This is more of a brolic character, right? So he's gonna have some tendons going down, right? And then he's gonna have like that muscle that kind of like goes from behind his neck. Think of like a Baki character almost. It kind of ends like around here, and then the shoulder is gonna like kind of go into like past the clavicle. Actually, I guess this would be a character. Kind of like that. He's all very scuffed, but we're just talking about concepts. Leave me alone. And then clavicle count. The beginnings of like, I guess maybe drawing the shoulders a little. Whatever. Okay. So these are all kind of scuffed, but that's okay. So I like this one the most, so I'm gonna start here. So next thing is like the head, or like kind of like the facial features, right? So as I'm sure you're aware, there's kind of like the eyes, the nose, and I'm not really sure how you want to conceptualize this, but like the eye is below the nose, and the nose is below or the eyes. You know what I mean? So what we're gonna do is so here's gonna be we're gonna do a little tip, right? So I'm gonna keep things really simple because this is how I draw personally. This is how I stay consistent. I don't do a big eye design. Like I try to my best not to like start doing like the feathering eyes and like having all these like wrinkles. This like whole like thing. We're not gonna do that today. So I'm not doing all this. This is not how I draw eyes on a regular basis when I'm sketching, because like that's too deep. That's too much. What we're gonna do is when you think about an eye, just think of a rectangle, and then push it over. So instead of like up, down, it's slants up, and then you're just gonna connect the slants, almost like connecting the vanishing point. And then for most eyes in general, this part, or like the further you get towards like the nose, is gonna be a bit thinner. And then the further you get to the end of the eye, where like the eyebrow, the eyelashes and stuff kind of like start really pushing off the eye a little bit, because it's gonna go like this a little bit. You guys want to make that thicker, kind of like this. And then when the part that curves into the eye, you can also make that thicker too, because again, it's just kind of like this is where the eye kind of come together, And then you can kind of just get rid of all this over here, and you can, if you want, you can draw like a very thin line that kind of like connects the eye together. Maybe go down a bit. Even still. And then if you want, you can draw like the tear duct. And then you can erase again. Really, the idea is like the closer you get to like the nose, the thinner you can make it. And then this is it. This is the eye. So essentially, the eye is really just like just make it thicker, and then you'll be surprised how fast the eye comes together. Like it's you don't really need to do all that to make the eye. Right? And you can do and this goes with any type of eye. So even if it's like a circle, you can do the same thing. Just make it a bit shorter. Make it a bit shorter, and then just get same way. It's all good. It's all. And if you're trying to do a more unique shape, like it's actually like let's say it's like a adolescent female character sometimes, or like an like shonen young kid, young. You can basically start with a more odd shape, like a circle, but you're gonna have the same fundamentals of like they're both gonna be they're both gonna be slanted, and you're going to make the bottom thicker, or like the bottom corner, and also the top corner thicker. You're gonna erase like the middle, kind of style it like a little bit, but then it's the same thing. Make the corner a bit thicker. Um, so what so what makes my eyes the way I make my eyes at least capture the main like eye marks, you know? Or what makes it a bit more real than just being such like a static thing is like I add two specific lines. So under the eye is gonna be like the first it's like the eyelid, right? So I kind of just start like kind of under the tear duct ish. Or you can kind of just either way. You can go from like the corner of the eye like here and kind of go down here, just make a really thin like underline eye. And you can doesn't have to be specific, it's just based on how you and then the eyelashes are gonna come off the eyelid, kind of like this. Well, it comes off the eye, but like this is how I just do out the eyelid, like kind of like this. And then same thing up here. You go over the eye for the eyelid, and you just kind of connect it to the end of it like this. And then you can kind of do the same thing from the eyes to the. And then I draw two upper eyelids. Like one is like the eyelid, and the other one is kind of also the eyelid. I can't really explain it why, but it just looks good when I do it. So I just go up. I go a little past this part, and then I go over, and then I'll draw like that. Again, it's really just like hang on the character, and then you can draw the people, and then you can kind of do this, and then this is how I kind of make my eyes like look a lot better than like I make them look like they're high effort when they're not high effort. It's very straightforward. But again, it works with any eye. Like it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like the like it's not so when you're learning like how to like draw, it's like you just got to find things to be consistent at. So no matter what your art style is or like what you're practicing, like you can always kind of fall back to like certain shapes and stuff. And even like this, you just same thing. This three, three. No, this one can be. Let's have more fun with this one. Three. You can draw more than three, obviously, but this is what we're. Yeah, so here's like the basics of like the eye. You don't need to do anything crazy. And then the mouth is also a bit interesting. So I draw more anime style mouth, so I don't typically go like all teeth and like or whatever. I keep it very simple. So you're gonna have like the basic expressions of like a smile, a neutral, and like a frown. And from these basic shapes, this is actually all you need. Um, because when you transfer it over to like what a mouth looks like, it's you're not let's do like you're not gonna change much to it. So if I was drawing a smile, what I do is the corners of the mouth will typically be more in shadow, like that's how it is. So I'm gonna amplify the shadow here on the corners, and then the lips will meet at some point in the middle, right? So there's always kind of like a bit of like a dip, like I think they call it a cupid's bow. It's a dip here, and then it kind of goes up and then kind of where the upper mouth, like upper lips are gonna be the bottom lip. So you can kind of put like the little cubes below here. And then the more anime style is to kind of just delete a lot of like the side mouth, so it's more, the shadows are telling the story more. And then you can draw the lower lip. Say it's like more of like a Juicy Lips character anyway. And this is actually, it looks kind of silly, but if I were to add like, you know, a little gloss, a little shading, and like a note, you know, now we have a mouth. That's all there is to it. And if I wanted to make the mouth talk, all you want to do is start from like here and just connect this part or whatever, or depending on like what the expression is. And you kind of already have like a starter mouth, lips, like some teeth, and then fill in the shadows and whatever. But you don't need to make a whole new mouth. You don't need to do all that. And that's like honestly the basis of drawing like a mouth. So whether if it's neutral, same thing. You draw like the neutral mouth. You draw the shadow up the corners. Again, this is my style, of course. Like just you draw like kind of the cupid's bow, erasing the sides here for like anime aesthetic. Lip. Alternatively, you can draw the below lip part, kind of like I guess like the lip shadow, I suppose. Draw like juicy lips, so we can get the idea. And again, if you want to talk, start from like the corners, like about here. Just kind of draw one line over. They're talking. And of course, you can like have like the so like this. Same thing with the frown thing, just so I can show you. Corner of the mouths, or shadow up the mouth or whatever. Then we're gonna go and up, and then kind of get rid of the sides a little bit. Now the mouth you can draw like this, but if the person's like really frowning, the lips will kind of go upwards a little bit, and you can still draw like the lips like, and then you know shade whatever. But you know if they're frowning, you can kind of do the same thing. You start at the corners of the mouth. Fine. Now, depending on how you want to do it, if you want to stylize a little bit, you can delete some of the bow there. Kind of like this. And that's it. Simple stuff. So it looks like I did a lot, but I'm telling you, you don't have to do that much to make good looking. You just need to understand the basic concepts of like, how do the shapes make sense with each other, and how do you put it all together? The nose is very, it's not tricky, really. The nose is very stylized. Some characters don't have noses. Some people like draw heavy noses. Like the general idea, if you're drawing a face, or it really doesn't matter. Like you just want to understand like the shadow, right? So if you have a head, shape doesn't matter. So the eyes are gonna go like here, and here. We like doesn't have to be specific, but we know the eyes go here and the mouth is gonna go here. So the nose, it's really important you conceptualize where the mouth and the eyes are, and that's where you can put the nose. You just gotta be in the ballpark and the nose will look fine. You don't need to be that specific. So what I do is I pick a side. Typically I lean towards like this, like the left of the face. It doesn't really matter too much. But I imagine like, okay, well, if the nose is here and the eyebrow line is here, it's gonna like go like this, right? Like this is kind of like this. So there'd be like some shading here and like that. So the nose, what I would do is right above the mouth, depending on the character, I would draw like, okay, well, if you draw a straight line, it's gonna look kind of goofy. So what I like to do, I like to kind of go out to make, or you can go out like this way or this way. It doesn't really matter too much, but I tend to just gravitate towards this way. And then from the nose line, I know that the nose line has to come off the upper like lid area. So I'm just going to, so this part, in my opinion, you really should exaggerate like the nose in a way. Like you need to put some kind of like the note, like there's like a bridge here, and then like there's like it's going some direction. And so I'm gonna do, just make it easy. We'll go like this, and then oh, I made it. I can like count I can count the pixels on the screen. Okay. So we're going to connect it. It's going to go down a little bit, obviously, and then it's going to go out this way. And this is basically like the idea of the nose. So what you gotta keep in mind though, it's like the nose is like there is like a bridge on the nose that exists. So we need to have some kind of like shadows going on to implicate like there's one side of the face that's like covered in like a shadow. So and also there's gonna be a nostril, typically, depending on the character. So I'm gonna draw a nostril, like it's just a line. And then I'm gonna draw the shadow of the other side of the nose. Kind of like this. And then I'm also going to draw the top of the nose that's going to be in light, usually, kind of like this. And this is like the idea of the nose. It looks kind of stupid here because the face looks kind of stupid. But this is like the idea. And if you want, you can draw like, but this is kind of like how you conceptualize like where the nose is. Now you can draw a nose like, like this, where it's like, this is like the bottom of the nose. You draw like the shading on top and like, you have a cute little thing. You can draw it kind of like more accurate where you have like the shiny point of the nose that kind of sticks out more to you. You draw like the two little like nostrils coming out. Dots. Kind of. This one's a little bit more tricky because it's more realism. So it's kind of just like a more knowledge. This is it. I can't do it right now. That's okay. That's art. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But yeah, typically so typically I'll just draw noses in a very simple way because again, I prefer more consistency as opposed to stylization. So I'll usually draw my noses like this, and then I'll go two, connect, thick, here, line, upper line, eyebrow, underline, three. I know the mouth's below the nose. A mutual expression. Shadows and lines. Now we have a character. And I'm not like I'm not it's not really memorization, it's more just like repetition and practice, and then the head's like this. And then I know that if I do this, the ear's gonna be like this, the ear's here. And then this is how you build characters very quickly. And I know the neck's gonna be here. And I know it's gonna be a shadow under the neck. I know the chin's gonna be a little pointy. It's gonna be a connection point under the neck, so clavicle. And I kind of go like this. This anyway. This. Now we're just sketching. Not all there's to it. And then if I want to be more specific, I can draw the torso. So let's say that she's like popping out like this a little bit. Now I can imagine that there's the bottom of like torso up, this side of the torso, and then it all connects together. Like this is how I imagine sketching, and this is why I can be so consistent. Like, it's all the same thing. I'm not like reinventing the wheel single time. Okay? So that's kind of the idea. So now I'm going to kind of like show you the different perspectives of the head. And then I'll probably free draw for a little bit. And then I'll probably as much as I can show you right now. Unless you want to see more. Crazy. So, the dreaded 3/4 view. This one, the anatomy gets a bit more difficult. Or at least the head anyway. So, the way it works is like first you draw a shape. Just draw something, make it exist, and then you go from there. So, okay. So what you need to keep in mind is like, if you stay calm, you can imagine what you're looking at very quickly. So if this is the side of the head and there's a cranium back, whatever. So this is like the eyes, right? I mean like 1, 2. Then you've made the eye, and then it's gonna be lower eye or lower eyelid, I guess. And then upper eyelid. Right? I didn't do anything crazy. I just followed the same guidelines I always use. Now, I know that the nose, from this angle, the nose is gonna protrude out from the face, obviously. And then, sorry. So, Maybe I should draw a side view first so I can show you. So the side view of a head, where am I? So the side view of a head is, it's a little tricky, but it's the same idea. You draw like the shape of the head, and then as opposed to like more of a this specific view. So at the halfway point, a little bit below, you're gonna have like the ear, and it's gonna go down to like the chin. So with this loose guideline, I know that if the eye line kind of goes out here, meaning the eye is gonna be here, and of course this is, you gotta draw from like a perspective. You understand? So what's interesting is that since the forehead is flat, it's like the forehead's flat. That's something you gotta know. It's not like I don't know, like a brick, but it is like much. It's not like a circle, right? So you draw the forehead that's flat. The brow line is, the brow is always gonna be at the brow line. So you're gonna pinch that. Is what gives like the shadow of the eye. Right? So you draw like the brow line. So you draw the forehead, the brow line, and then below the eye is the nose, right? So below the eye, we're gonna draw the nose. So we're just gonna end out. And then below the nose, it's not gonna keep going out like this. Like it's gonna stop. So below the nose line, that's where it's gonna, just baller knowledge, like the jaw obviously goes down, and then the nose will connect to the chin and slanted. So the nose is here, the chin is here, and the chin's gonna go under the ear. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and drop this a little bit, and then I'm just gonna connect this more or less. And we can always adjust, but we always gotta get the guidelines, and then you can make it look good. But just make it logical first, and then you make it look good. So what we're gonna do is below the nose, we're going to draw the under part of the nose, and then like up. Like just draw like a triangle. You know what I mean? Like just make it angle upwards a little bit. You can kind of like dip if you want. And then below the nose is gonna be the upper lip, and the upper lip is gonna protrude from the face, so it's not gonna go inwards. It's gonna go upwards. So we're gonna loop out, triangle, protrusion. You don't need to get too specific. And then below the upper lip is the bottom lip, obviously. So I don't know what the expression is, but we're just gonna go draw a bottom lip. And then what we're gonna do with the chin is we're just gonna scoop in. Okay, very cool. Scoop in and scoop out. See, 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 see. Right? And now we're already getting like a side view, whatever. And then you're gonna see the underside of the chin in this angle. So not at like, when you kind of get past like the main chin part, you can actually just draw another line to like the ear, and then erase the bottom line a little bit. Actually, let me try that again. From this point, you're gonna draw like a triangle, like branch off, like two. Like it's hard to explain, but this is how. Like you're gonna see the underside of the head, and then you can kind of shade this a little bit, and then past the forehead is gonna be the top of the head. So it's not like it's not a pure like circle. It's like forehead and then the head, and that's where the cranium starts. So we're gonna extend above the ear, and then just connect loosely over there. And then the cranium is gonna start below the ear, like slightly behind, so like one. That's not where it starts, but like this is a good way to make a mental marker. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use black again. I'm going to basically just connect a wide thing like this. Okay? And now we have a loose shape of like the head, and it connects kind of like. And then from the neck, you're gonna have the tendons, like we are talking about before, that go from under the ear to like the neck. So we're just gonna draw that down here, and then this is just. And then females have Adam's apples too. So if you want to make it a bit more anatomically correct, you can draw. It's kind of hard to explain, but like the neck isn't just like a cylinder, even though like that's the essential shape. Like we can draw a cylinder just to make it like obvious. But when you get to the tendon that goes like the clavicle, sort of. Well, it kind of, yeah, just goes to clavicle. You can go ahead and draw like so it connects to the neck. So you do connect the neck, but then you kind of do like an ab sort of, and you can kind of play around with this to make it look a certain way. But like there's a shape, there's kind of like a circle going on, and then now you have like the side of the head, right? It's just short, but you can draw. And then the neck, the back of the neck, and of course you can kind of play around with this, and change like whatever line. But essentially, it's kind of like what the back of the head looks like, or the side view of the head, or whatever. Essentially, these are all very loose references. I don't like the neck. This is essentially of the neck. Okay. Anyway, so we know what the front face of the head looks like. We know the side view now. So now, from like a different, for a more interesting angle, we're just gonna rely on the things that we know. Okay? So the eye line goes to the ear. So we'll say she's an elf. Okay, so we're gonna draw here, and then since we're looking down at this, I'm gonna draw like if the ear is like this, you know, like front facing, then that means from the top it's gonna be like you can't see a lot of it. So I'm gonna draw a blocked version of like the ear and kind of keep the bottom. Kind of draw. It's not that specific. Like not a lot of people want to like count or like be like, oh, the ear anatomy is too far. It's like it's style. Like it's an ear. And it's gonna be like a little shaded. And then as we learned from the side view, the nose is gonna protrude out a little bit. Well, I guess you're gonna see the top of the nose, right? So you can add like a little shading here. And we're gonna go down to the upper lip. Lip. Then we're gonna go C. Here, you can tell it's a little off a little bit, but that's okay. We're getting the basic idea. And then the brow line is gonna be bent. And then the forehead is gonna be flat. And then if we extend up from the ear, we can kind of connect here to finish like the top, like the first half of the head. And then for the cranium, we know it's behind the ear that you can't see. So we're just gonna like this. And then we know that since from this angle, like there's two sides to the face, obviously. So if the eye was like this, we're just gonna draw it backwards. So like two. And since we don't really need to be too specific with the eye, since you're not really gonna see much of it, so we're just gonna make the corners thicker, like we did before, forward. And then we're kind of just gonna loosely connect. Like really all you gotta do is like, if you think about the brow line, you can kind of just push it a little more forward. And then just kind of put, and if you had imagine like the eyelid brow kind of goes off the head a little bit, you kind of just like connect a little. It doesn't need to be that crazy. Most people like will not look hard at it, to be honest. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Oh man, hold on. This angle does get a little tricky, so if you think my art is good, just know that I still struggle with this. It's a little funny. Yeah, anatomy takes a lot of patience, so don't be too. Even me giving a demonstration of a perspective I've drawn a million struggles. It's fine, whatever. I'm drawing. She has two eyes, y'all. I'm not gonna sit here all day and do it. You get the idea. Or just following guidelines. Okay. So, and then, so if we imagine like the bottom of the neck, thanks. Like we don't need to be like super hardcore of like, oh, it needs to be like right here. But if we imagine like the bottom of the neck is actually like right here somewhere, and we extend it down to like here, we kind of can assume that the shadow is going to be like kind of like, well, it should be like I guess kind of like down here somewhere. So we can just kind of draw like a little shadow. It doesn't be like super specific, but we just need to keep in mind shadow here. And then if we apply everything we've learned so far, and again, I'm not using a reference. I'm just using just the context clues of what I'm drawing. I'm going to just start sketching. Okay, well the bottom neck's here, and then I know muscle behind the neck, shoulder, and then here, and then I know that like if the torso is kind of like this in a way. So yeah, I'm just gonna perspective. It's not gonna go to the shoulder. That's where it ends, right? So I mean the torso is gonna end here, which means the side plane is gonna be here. It's all just pattern recognition. Like I'm not doing anything crazy. Nothing that you guys can't do. Now we kind of have like the same ideas of everything we discussed. Anything crazy. This is a female, so ideally you make the hips a bit wider than the torso for most females. Depending on if you want to go crazy with it, you can go crazy. But we're just gonna keep the general proportions here. It's gonna be based, obviously. Since this leg is closer to us, we're gonna here, and then and then this is when once you get to this point, this is when you can start drawing, or this is when anatomy starts coming a lot more naturally to you, because then you'll start being curious, being like, oh wait, what does it look like from this angle, and then now you can kind of understand like, oh wait, this is why this makes sense. This is why, and it's because you have like this basic understanding of what things actually. So this is like, I guess the more of the beginner's like handbook to like how do you start drawing like cool, looking characters that like look very accurate, and yeah. So I'm gonna just sketch for a second so I can kind of like stop being an ass at drawing, and then yeah. If you like what you saw, let me know. I can start talking about like really like more like muscle anatomy and like different things, but like I kind of want like to kind of give people like a very like basic like, of course, like you can be like step one, draw a box. Step two, draw like a whole figure, but it's really not that complicated. It's just practice. Like you just got to practice a lot, and then you can kind of draw anything you want. I want to give you the tools to seriously draw like really whatever you want, because like it's hard. Like drawing is really difficult, and like I think there's a million people telling you to do it a million different ways, which is good. You should explore not just my videos, but like any video of like people that you like their art of to see like, what they do. But ultimately, like it's a journey you got to go through, because what works for some people might not work for other people. So you just kind of need to, just try different things. Like just see what works, what doesn't work, and whatever. But like you can do this. Like there's nothing different between me and you and Da Vinci or whatever. We're all just people trying to practice this craft. Just break things down into simple shapes. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just practice, 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 and just keep things in mind, and you'll be able to do it. And then once you like start having fun with, once you can get comfortable with drawing just like anything, then you can start drawing like wacky things. Like let's say she's got like a plasma rifle, sword. I don't need to know exactly what it looks like, but I do know that like, okay, it's got a rifle, got like a bullet case, or like it has like a nozzle, like the head part. And I know it's got like ammo, right? So that means like I can't see behind the gun, but I know that's got like a like a magazine or something. I don't know. It's got like a scope maybe. And then this is like when we start seeing people like start just drawing anything, and you're like, how do you like even like conceptualize it's got a trigger, right? It's all just like creativity and logic. Like things just makes. And I don't need to know. I'm not a gun expert. I don't know how guns work to that level, but I get the idea of like, okay, like this is kind of like what it would look like. I know like under the gun, maybe it's like a big. Maybe he's got like a extension under the gun, a little shadow here, next out here. And like this is like when sketching gets like really fun, and you can really get to some interesting characters. And like you don't like obviously use a reference to like practice, because like you don't know what you don't know, so using a reference is like very normal. Like you kind of need to get better, but you don't have to have, you don't need to look for like 8 hours to find like a reference you need for a very hyper specific thing. You don't need 3D models. You don't need like 18 years of experience. Like you just need to practice and be confident that like it's okay to fail, but like just fail greatly and fail consistently, so you can really like work on like oh, like what is specifically tripping me up? Is it the color? Is it the composition? Is it like the whatever? Like, I don't know. But you can do it. And it's fine. You are already an amazing artist, and especially like you even like getting to this point of video, like really you have the gall to like learn what you want to know. So it's all about practice. It's all about finding the ways you interpret things. And no, this is not like magic. Like I'm not doing anything that's like breaking the bank. like a mystical power. Like this is just basic concepts doing that I've done many times. Confident in what I can do, and I want to learn more. So I look at more videos. I keep trying different things, try new styles and aesthetics, and like that's how you grow. And this isn't like a talent. There's no talent like provided. It's just practice. So I just want to encourage you, if like that you can do this, and if you guys want like a very specific like this, how do you draw like you know like women, or how do you draw like monsters or whatever? Like just let me know, and I can make a tutorial video on that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, but if you want to draw kind of like the way I do, or at least like conceptualize things the way I do, then like this is kind of like everything, all there is I can teach you about like how I imagine things and how I can build things. So yeah, so thank you for watching this and tuning in. Like I think that do it. I can't wait to see what you do. Hopefully you share it with me. If you don't, also fine too. And I hope that your artistic career or just like your interests like keeps growing, and like I can't wait to see what you can do. But yeah, be patient with yourself. You don't need any fancy tools. Like I can do all this on paper. Like I didn't. I use this is all in one layer. You know what I mean? You don't need a lot of tips and tricks to pull you over. You just need to be confident. You need to fail quickly. If you're feathering a lot, you know, I get the I gotta draw a head. I gotta draw the oh my god. I gotta like please try not to do this. It's natural when you're insecure and you're not confident, but like all this does is add noise and you can't see like shit. Like in the same eye that I'm drawing, like it's hard to see any details because I'm drawing too much. Like it's too much. Just draw, but even without me erasing, just draw, and you'll be fine. Like I promise you, you don't need to do all that. Take your time, understand what you're trying to do, see what your references are, and you'll be alright. So sorry, I got carried away.